When will the housing market become a buyer's market? And I understand that this is really big and it's really on the top of everyone's mind right now because we've been in an unprecedented run of this real estate market with all the power in the seller's hands. But it won't be this way forever though, and I'm gonna let you in on exactly when it's going to shift. So to help you know exactly when the market is gonna shift, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna tap into my own experience over the years, and I'm gonna share the little things that I'm looking at right now so you can look at the same. The first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna define the difference between what's a seller's market and what's a buyer's market. The second thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break down the supply and demand dynamic and how it controls the market in a way that you won't hear anywhere else. And third, I'm gonna give you a good timeline as to when the market will shift from a seller's market to you, the buyer's market, so that you'll know when the timing is right for you to pick up your next house or your next investment property so you can continue building your American dream. So real quickly, so that you know the difference between a buyer's market and a seller's market, a buyer's market is when there's more houses on the market than there are buyers in the marketplace. A seller's market, very similar to what we're in right now, when there's more buyers than there are houses for sale. And a rule of thumb on how we define this, what we'll do is it's a little bit of a math equation. We'll look at the number of houses that are on the market, the number of houses that are for sale, and then we'll go look at the number of houses that are going under contract each and every month on a 30-day cycle. And what we'll do is we'll take the number of houses and then we'll divide that by the number of houses that are going under contract. And that number tells us how many months of inventory there is. So if there's 100 houses in the market and there's 25 houses that went under contract this month, you take that 100, divide it by 25, and you have 4 months of inventory. And the big line, I guess, of demarcation between a buyer's market and a seller's market is 6 months. 6 months or less is technically a seller's market. 6 months or more would be a buyer's market. All right, so the current situation, if we're gonna use that 6-month number, right now, we are at 2 months of inventory pretty much nationally. It's gonna vary from location to location, but on average nationally, 2 months. So it's a really, really strong seller's market. So here's the deal, and it's kind of feeding the problem here. The US built 1/4 fewer homes per year in the last 20 years than they did the previous 20 years, of which has created a huge deficit. Had builders continued building at that previous pace, there would be 5.5 million more homes available for sale today. So to make up for this deficit, the National Association of Realtors recently reported that builders would have to build 2.1 million homes per year for the next 10 years just to catch up. So that fact already puts us a little bit behind, but the problem gets a little bit worse. Builder confidence is shrinking due to the cost of goods. Cement is rising in price, copper is rising in price, and we all know, we've seen it in the headlines, lumber is rising in price, and it's getting very expensive to build new homes. And so builders obviously are not going to build homes at the current price if they can't sell them for a profit. So builder confidence is really low right now. New home starts are much lower than we need. The bottom line is we have to build a bunch of homes, but we just can't build them cheap enough to resell them. All right, so before I get to the demand, because the demand is crazy right now, go ahead and hit the like button and make sure you hit the subscribe button, because I'm gonna give you the recipe of how you can actually win in this market. So when it comes to demand, where are all of these people coming from? Because you may be under the impression, if you've been watching the news, that our population growth rate has been shrinking. Now, if you're speaking from a percentage, that would be accurate. But if you're actually speaking by numbers, not accurate at all. The population is bigger than it's ever been. And to only compound that, we have the group of millennials that are now approaching first-time home buyer age. In fact, the average first-time home buyer age is 31, and the peak of the millennial generation right now is 29. So we've got 2 years of massive demand just from first-time home buyers. And then people aren't just stopping at buying one home. People are buying second homes, they're buying vacation homes, they're buying investment properties. With the money situation that's going on right now, it's making it very easy for people to buy multiple homes. So when will this be a buyer's market? Well, as I pointed out, based on the National Association of Realtors studies, we're probably looking at a decade, maybe even a little bit longer, unless shelter somehow goes out of fashion. Or if builders pick up the pace. So does that mean you have to sit around and wait for a decade before you can even look at a house? No, the answer is no. There's definitely something that you can do. Recently, I moved to Vegas and I rented for a couple years just to make sure that the family liked it there, and we did. And so when our lease came up, it was time for us to move. We looked out in the rental market, and then we looked at the homes for sale, and we kind of did an evaluation, and it was technically cheaper to buy now than it was to rent. So we decided that we were gonna make this purchase. But we knew the market dynamics. How are we gonna play this game when it was such a bidding war at every single property from all of these buyers trying to buy a house? So we went about it the traditional way. We went and found a house, and we submitted an offer, and sure enough, there were 10 more offers by noon, and we didn't get it. And then we went and tried it again, same thing happened. And I was like, hold up. We've only got 30 days to find a house. We have to do something different. So this is what we did. I called up my real estate agent, and I said, here are 10 houses I just found on Zillow. I want you to write 10 offers and submit them all today. So that's what we did. And we sat around, we waited, and 4 offers came back, 4 counter offers came back from sellers, 4 out of the 10. And we looked at those 4 and we countered back all 4 of those, and then 2 actually sold the properties to somebody else, and we were left with 2 that actually got accepted. Then once they got accepted, now we actually went out and looked at the houses physically. And then we decided which one that we wanted, and then we canceled the contract of the house that we didn't want, and then we stayed with the house that we did. So essentially what I did is I took my real estate investing strategy and just applied it to my own primary residence. Because when it comes to real estate, you've heard this expression probably before, it's all about location, location, location. But when it comes to real estate investing, it's all about offers, offers, offers. So I get it, the market is hot, and it's probably gonna be that way for a while. The power is probably gonna be in the seller's hands for a while. But that doesn't mean that you should wait, because you could be waiting for a very, very long time. And I've gone into great detail as to why that could be a really big mistake. And I put a link in the description for that video down below. But the bottom line is, the average homeowner, regardless of when they purchase their property, will ultimately end up 40 times wealthier than those that never purchased a property at all. And based on the current market conditions, that could be rather troubling to hear, I get it. But waiting for this market to shift to a buyer's market could be even more troubling and cause some real damage to your financial future. But there's more that you can do other than just writing multiple offers to shift this market into your favor. It might make sense for you to start looking for properties off market. And I talk about how to do that quite a bit here. And the strategies, they're timeless. You just have to know about them and then implement them. And so what I've done is I put a link below for exactly how to find off-market properties. So when is the housing market going to be a buyer's market again? If you've got the right strategies, it could be right now.